Lie on your back with your legs bent over a chair or an object that allows you to get a 90-degree angle bend at your knees and your hips. Make sure that your ankles are not higher or lower than your knees at any point in this position. The object must allow you to relax your legs completely so you don't have to use any of your own muscles to keep your legs in one position. If you notice that your knees are falling out apart from each other, you can place a strap around them that will allow them to relax into the strap so they don't fall outward. Make sure that the strap doesn't have any kind of elasticity to it so that it presses in against your knees. You're going to place your arms out to your sides at a 45-degree angle from your body with your palms face up. Allow your lower back, hips, and shoulders to settle into the floor on their own. Balance and symmetry check. Pay attention to how your back, your hips, and your shoulders feel as they're lying against the floor. Do you notice that one side of your hips or other parts of your backs or shoulders is touching the ground or heavier into the ground more on one side than on the other? Take notes of any of these differences that are on one side of the body versus the other. They should settle down and become more symmetrical by the end of this position. You also have the ability to lie in this position for anywhere up to 10 to 15 minutes if you notice that you don't settle completely into the position. But it's not necessary to go longer than 10 or 15 minutes. Place a block in between your knees that is about 4 to 6 inches in diameter and make sure that the block is firm so that if you were to press into it, it wouldn't have any ability to squish. Place your arms out to your sides at a 45-degree angle with your palms face up. You're going to press into the block with both knees, using about 50% of your overall strength, on and off, for the recommended amount of repetitions. Balance and symmetry check. Take notes of the way that your back, hips, shoulders feel from one side to the other against the ground. The lower back should be flat at this point. Pay attention to, as you're doing the squeezes, what changes about the lower back and any differences from left to right in your body. As you continue doing the squeezes, do you feel like you're becoming more even? Do you feel like you're becoming less even? Do you notice a difference between one side and the other when you're doing the actual squeezes in terms of the muscles that you're using to do the squeezes? Do you feel like one leg is pushing harder than the other leg? All of these are asymmetries and should be evening out as you continue doing this position and going through the program. Take your elbows and bring them out to your sides at shoulder level and raise your forearms up so that your forearms and your hands are pointed up at the ceiling. Your palms should be faced down towards your feet and your hands should be making kind of a relaxed fist. There should be a 90-degree angle at the elbows and at the shoulders. You're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together, allowing them to glide together by lightly pressing your elbows into the ground. Try not to just press your elbows into the ground, but really get the gliding mechanism of the shoulder blades. You're going to do this using about 50% of your overall strength. Balance and symmetry check. Pay attention to the differences from left to right, where your back, hips, and shoulders are touching the ground. Which sides are touching the ground more than the other? As you are doing these presses, do you notice anything changing in how that feels? How the different parts of your back, shoulders, and hips feel against the ground? Also, take notes of the differences in how your shoulders feel as you're doing the presses. Do you notice that one shoulder blade glides easier than the other? Do you notice different muscles working from one side to the other? Take notes and recognize that these are asymmetries happening at the shoulders and the pelvis, and that this should change over time. From here, you're going to take your hands and interlace your fingers together so that your palms are together, and extend your arms straight up in front of your chest until your elbows are completely locked. Keeping the elbows very, very locked and straight, you're going to allow your arms to fall back over your head towards the floor. You're only going to go as far back as you can go where your elbows do not bend and you do not have to apply any force to get lower. As soon as you notice that you have to apply any kind of force, that's the point that you're going to stop and you're going to come back up so that your arms go back over your chest. Also, pay attention to what your back is doing. If your arms are going down and you start to notice that your back begins to arch, you want to make sure that you don't go any lower. Once you notice that your back starts to arch, you're also going to stop at that point and come back up. So you're only going between the 2 points that you notice the elbows can stay locked, you don't have to apply force, and you do not have to arch your back. Go between these 2 points in a slow manner that's controllable. Don't increase the speed and try to rush through this. Balance and symmetry check. Pay attention to the differences on your back, hips, and shoulders where you can feel the pressure against the ground. Take notes of the differences from one side to the other. Also, take notes of how it feels as you're doing these pullovers. Make sure that you can tell the difference between how your back is adjusting as you're doing it. Do you notice things are becoming more even? Do you feel like things are becoming less even as you continue to do them? Take notice of the differences between how your shoulder blades are moving and how your shoulders are moving as you're going through the movement. Do you feel differences from one side to the other? All of these are asymmetries that are showing up that should even out as you continue doing this position and going through the program. Lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor, parallel and pointed straight ahead. Your arms should be placed out to the side at a 45-degree angle from your body with your palms face up. Using the muscles in your hips, you're going to roll your pelvis backwards to flatten your lower back on the floor, and then tip your pelvis forward to create an arch in your lower back. You're going to move between these 2 points, attempting just to tilt the pelvis back and forward. As you tip the pelvis forward to create an arch in your back, use the muscles in the front of your hips and your back to create that arch. As you're tucking the pelvis underneath, flattening the back to the floor, use the muscles of your glutes and your abdominals. As you're tucking the pelvis, try to be very light on the feet and don't push your feet into the ground. Do this controlled and slow, trying to get as much range of motion as you can without activating or using any of the rest of the body. Balance and symmetry check. Do you feel muscles working on one side that are not working on the other? Do you have any kind of twinges or pains or discomfort in one part of your back or one part of your body that's not on the other side? As your pelvis learns how to create this movement and your body becomes more balanced, this should become more symmetrical with this movement and the pain should reduce. Lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor, hip width apart and pointed straight ahead. Place the bottom soles of the feet together and allow your knees to relax and drop out to the sides. At first, try to keep your feet as close to your hips as possible. If they start to slide away from you, just allow them to go wherever they comfortably slide to and then leave them there. Your knees are going to drop out to the sides and everything in your body should be relaxed. As your knees drop out to the sides, you might notice that there is an arch, a slight arch, in your lower back. That is okay. Your arms should be just out to your sides with your palms face up at a 45-degree angle from your body. Relax completely in this position for the recommended amount of time. Balance and symmetry check. Do you notice a difference in how far one leg moves than the other? Is one knee closer to the floor than the other? You might feel a stretch or some kind of sensation in the muscles of the hip on one leg that's different than the ones on the other. Of course, these are asymmetries showing up and should even out over time. Place your back against a wall and keep your feet and knees about 6 inches apart. From here, you're going to walk away from the wall until you can allow yourself to slide down and put yourself in a seated position where you are about just over a 90-degree angle at the hips as well as the knees. The goal here is to have your mid-back, lower back, and hips completely flush against the wall. It's almost as though you're going to have a small slouch in your back and your posture in order to make this happen. Your head and shoulders will slightly come off the wall. Keep all of the pressure in your heels, relax your stomach, put your palms face up on your lap, and make sure that you do not use your upper body or shoulders at any point in this position. Keeping the pressure in your heels, you're going to hold this for the recommended amount of time. If you feel like a lot of the work is going into your knees, you can come up slightly until you don't feel the work in your knees anymore. You should feel the work in the upper thigh muscles, the quadriceps. Balance and symmetry check. Do you feel like both legs are working evenly, or do you feel like one leg is pushing into the ground or the wall more than the other? Take note in how even it feels where your back and hips are up against the wall. You might feel like it's not symmetrical from left to right, like certain parts of your back or your hips are touching the wall more than other parts. One thing that you can do if this is happening is to place a yoga block or some type of firm pillow between your knees where you're not necessarily going to squeeze it, but allow your knees to press into it, just enough to hold it, and see if that makes things even out. Over time, it should even out as things become more symmetrical.